wanted to, I guess, thank you all for joining us. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land that I'm on. I'm on Wurundjeri country and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. And when we talk about honouring volunteering, building community, we think it's so important here at Volunteering Victoria to acknowledge the First Nations peoples of our country who've been doing this in place for, 60,000 plus years. So my name is Sarah Sterling. I'm a senior manager here at Volunteering Victoria, and I'd also like to introduce Katie, who's with me on screen, who's our events project manager here with us at VV. And as you will have guessed, we're here to talk about the Victorian Volunteer Awards and really give you an overview of what you need to get started. So as part of what we're going to go through, we're going to talk through, I guess, some of our previous winners, give you a little bit of a snapshot of what the award ceremony looked like last year, give you an overview of this year's, an overview of the awards itself, its history, go through the awards categories, and a few tips and tricks on how to submit a nomination, tips for a good nomination, and then you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. And as we've noted, today's session is being recorded, so for those who aren't able to make the session here today. Just in the interest of keeping you guys awake as you eat your lunch, and please feel free to keep your cameras on or off. I know some of you may be doing this during your lunchtime. Katie and I are going to do a little bit of back and forth so you don't fall asleep to the sound of one of our voices. So I'll pass over now to Katie and actually share our other screen. So bear with me. Katie, if you want to talk about last year's ceremony.
Yeah, sure. So we had a great celebration with over there's roughly about 300 volunteers and people who nominated them from all around the world, or all around Victoria, sorry. And yeah, that was oh, here we go. Here we are into that. So it was at the RACV Club, so you can see there the this was the veterans that show people how to fish. So they take people with PSD or other sort of different situations and take them out fishing. There are just some more guests at the event. The room. This was our winner from last year, Cherie McLean, and she's from the Red Cross, and here she is with her awards, which we'll tell you a little bit about. So the Silver Award, that's actually Dame Elizabeth organised that particular award. So the award is named after her, and it's got the leaf with two shards underneath. And the story is that many people go to one leaf for shelter and all the rest of it. And she just felt this was a great way of, she loved gardening and also the arts. And she felt that that was a great tribute to the Volunteer of the Year, which Cherie is. And she also won the Premier's Award and $10,000 to the charity of her choice, being the Red Cross. Yep. Some more guests. These are last year's winners or the previous year's winners.
So this hopefully gives you just a bit of a flavour of
Yeah.
what the awards and the ceremony have looked like in previous years.
And they're all of our winners in the final shot. So it's really people of all ages, stages, some fairly new to volunteering, and some who have had like close on 50 years. So an absolute breadth of volunteers.
Fantastic. And I'm just going to return back to our slide deck. Um, thank you. We just thought it would be helpful. I think sometimes we can fall into the trap of thinking volunteers that deserve recognition are all, sort of 80 plus who've been volunteering for a particular period of time, and really wanted to bring to life the winners of previous awards and the diversity that is within those categories. So, to give you a little bit of an overview and a history, the Victorian Volunteer Awards, which obviously we're hopeful that you will be submitting lots and lots of nominations for people around you and your organisations, they aim to recognise and celebrate the impact that volunteers, volunteer leaders, and volunteer programs have in building resilient communities, services, and connections across Victoria. We know that our state would not thrive in the way that it does without the significant contributions of volunteers and volunteer programs. And so the Victorian Volunteer Awards aims to recognise that. It showcases excellence by individuals, teams, volunteer involving organisations, and we run the awards in conjunction with the Victorian State Government. So previously we had a separate volunteer program awards. The state government ran the Premier's Volunteer Champion Awards, and we've combined them to be the Victorian Volunteer Awards that recognise both organisations and individuals who are contributing and impacting community. I'll throw to Katie now to talk a little bit about this year's timeframe in terms of the awards.
Yeah, sure. So we opened for nominations on the 29th of April, and they shut at 4 p.m. on the Friday, the 4th of July, 2025. So there's about 6 weeks to go. Nominating is absolutely free. So yeah, as Sarah said, make sure you yeah, definitely put forward a few volunteers, and you can't nominate yourself, but you can definitely nominate other people. Then through July to October, we do the assessment and selection. We announce our finalists in October, and the awards are in November.
Now, for some of you who may have been involved in the awards previously, sometimes we've held that award ceremony over to the previous year. So this is wonderful that we're encapsulating it all in the calendar year, and that is a little bit of a change from previous years. Now, for the awards, we have 4 individual categories and 4 organisation categories that you can nominate for. And we're going to go through each of them in detail, but the individual categories are called Volunteer Leadership, Volunteer Impact, Volunteer Commitment, and a Young Volunteer Award. And then the organisational categories are Volunteering Innovation, Volunteering Partnerships, Inclusive Volunteering, and Grassroots Volunteering. And of all of those award winners, so the judging panels will look at and assess and select finalists and winners for all of those various categories. But out of the winners of all of the individual categories and all of the organisational categories, we pick one Volunteer of the Year, who wins that Dame Elizabeth Murdoch award that Katie was talking to, where there's an individual cash prize for an organisation of your choice, as well as the Organisation of the Year, which recognises volunteer excellence from that organisation. So those 2 awards, the Organisation of the Year and the Volunteer of the Year, you can't nominate a person directly for them, but they are chosen out of the winners of the individual or organisation categories. We'll now talk to each of those one by one and what we're looking for from each of those categories. But a little bit more about Dame Elizabeth Murdoch award first, and I'll throw to Katie, who,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
So, yeah, Dame Elizabeth Murdoch was involved in so many charities. She had probably one of the most amazing philanthropic um, abilities to be able to give cash to hundreds and hundreds of organizations. And yeah, she absolutely loved volunteering. And so, yeah, I couldn't think of a better person that the Premier's Award is named after. And yeah, as we said, the winner receives $10,000. So that's a lot for small organisations. And yeah, Cherie's definitely happy for the Australian Red Cross to win that prize on her behalf. And yeah, as we said, it's not open to nominations. They come from the individual categories of nominations.
So, as again I alluded to before, we also have an Organisation of the Year, which is chosen by the Premier from the organisational category winners. That one recognises exceptional volunteer involving organisation that demonstrates overall excellence. There is no cash prize associated with that. It's not open to nominations, but it does still have a fantastic impact for those winners who do receive it. So Gather My Crew were a fantastic recipient last year. And they spoke a little bit at our State of Volunteering National Volunteer Week event last week, just around the impact of that award. So to start with those individual categories that are open for nomination now, again, Katie, do you want to?
Yeah. So there are 8 categories, and we've got to say that the Volunteer Commitment Award is probably the category that gets the most applicants too. So a recommendation is that you read through all the different possible combinations of awards that you could nominate someone for. It might be the Volunteer Commitment Award really explains who they are and what they do in your organisation. But if there is one other, perhaps choose that category. So that's just a hint and tip from Sarah and myself. So this one is for dedicated and passionate individuals with a substantial record of commitment. Nominees might be long-serving volunteers and reliable hard workers whose significant contribution and enthusiasm for volunteering is an inspiration to others. This one's open to any individual location in Victoria and any type of work that they might do.
I think it's a good reminder. Cherie, who was our nominee last year, was an entirely online volunteer due to health considerations. So it's not like she's been showing up at an office, from 9 to 5 every day for the past however many weeks, which is sometimes one of those traditional conceptions that we have when we think about volunteers with long-term commitment. So I think an important reminder of the diversity of those work types or role types. The next individual category is the Young Volunteer Award. And, as the name suggests, it's open only to individuals 25 years of age or younger, but across all locations and volunteer role types across Victoria. You can see our 2024 winner there from Anglicare Victoria's Big Dreams program, named Tyrese. And this award in particular celebrates the enthusiasm, initiative, and leadership of young people in volunteering. And again, nominees will be inspiring young people who've made a remarkable impact and contribution through volunteering. And in general, when I read the bios of particularly, young volunteer nominees, I often feel like I've done absolutely nothing with my life. Katie.
Yeah, no, there's some absolutely exceptional young people coming through, which is fantastic. So the next one is Volunteer Leadership Award. And here we have Arthur Sarafaz. And yeah, she was with the United Muslim Sisters of Latrobe Valley. And yeah, it was a big thrill for her to win this award. She couldn't believe when her name was read out and came up to me at the awards and just said, there are so many others. There are so many with so many wonderful things they do. How come I was chosen? So, yeah, she definitely had a big surprise. So it recognises people who have shown exceptional volunteer leadership and influence. And yeah, any all ages, locations, and work abilities. And so, yeah, we're looking for inspiring individuals who built effective volunteer networks and partnerships, empowered others, or engaged and strengthened communities.
And I guess recognizing that that doesn't, even though it's looking at those leadership qualities in particular, it doesn't have to be longevity, it doesn't have to be in a particular way, shape, or form. And I think a common theme or sentiment from those who are finalists or award winners was surprise around the recognition, or a feeling that there are so many others who are just as worthy. So I think really, if I can share any message with you today, it's nominate. You never know in terms of who's gonna be recognized and shortlisted, and so it's always worth it to have a go and put in that nomination. And then finally, the Volunteer Impact Award is the last individual category, and it celebrates people whose volunteering has made a remarkable difference. They may be volunteer innovators, pioneers, people who are working to improve outcomes, supporting important changes. So again, the focus of this award is around the impact of the volunteer. It's not around longevity. And so, quite often we have individuals who are put up for the Volunteer Commitment Award. It's often our most highly nominated award. So, think about this doesn't have to do with longevity. This simply has to do with the impact that an individual has had in their volunteering, and what impact they've made. As you can see, our 2024 winner, Brenton Ponza, was there, and he's a volunteer with the Cerebral Palsy Education Centre. And this award is open again to all individuals, all ages, locations, work types. So there's not a specific image that we're looking for with this award. Katie, if you want to kick off the organisational, sorry.
That's okay. And some of our volunteers actually contributed to many different groups. So it might not have just been one group, but there might have been 4 different groups. But we've just highlighted the main one that they were awarded for. So yeah, the first one of our group nominations is Inclusive Volunteering Award. This one went to Special Olympics Melbourne Inner East. Again, they were incredibly excited, and every time we got someone up on stage, they always brought someone from their crew with them. So that was a bit of fun. But this one really celebrates diversity and inclusion in volunteering programs. So if you think of something where your group has gone out to include other people, or diversified your offering to create new initiatives that may be linked to another group or something like that, that's the sort of inclusiveness that we're looking for. And yeah, so again, this one's open to non-for-profit organisations of any size across all sectors and locations.
and the Volunteering Partnerships Award is the next of our organisational category awards. So recognising volunteer programs, volunteer involving organisations rather than the individuals. And this award is really trying to recognise the importance of collaboration and partnerships to achieve positive outcomes in the community sector. So, the nominee organisations will have made a significant difference through establishing and maintaining effective and enduring partnerships with other organisations. And it's worth knowing that this award is aimed at not-for-profit organisations, but those partnerships can be with local government, can be with businesses, can be with other organisational types. But the partnership award is aimed specifically at the not-for-profit, again, across all sectors and locations across Victoria. So it's really about saying, we rarely do things alone in the community world, and we want to recognise and celebrate those partnerships.
And here we have the Volunteering Innovation Award. So this was Gather My Crew, and they so if someone has like a major incident in life or a sickness or something like that, they can put online all the services that people might be able to help them with. So it could be meals or picking up school kids, running them off to various activities, just to take that load away. So this was what this group was all about. And so, yeah, we're looking for an award that recognises the role of innovation and adaptation to continually improve the volunteer experience and enhance support. Nominees may have delivered positive outcomes through a unique volunteering program or new practices or operating models to improve their work of their organisation. And this group were fairly new, so they were still sort of optimising some of their online activity and the way that they dealt with volunteers, etc. And again, open to non-for-profit organisations of any size across Victoria. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And the final award is around grassroots volunteering. So recognising that we want to pay special tribute to the small grassroots organisations, volunteer involving organisations that have a huge impact within local communities, and that they require, special effort to build and maintain. So nominees, organisations nominated will be small community-led organisations that have provided important local services, led positive change, or supported social and community life. And they're open to organisations that are entirely volunteer-led and operated, but the key is that you have to have a organisational turnover of less than $50,000 per year. So there is a cap on the size of the organisation around recognising that we're really targeting small and volunteer-driven organisations with this particular award.
And as part of the nomination process, we also require a letter from like maybe the chief financial officer or the CEO, someone in authority, just to say that, yeah, that's our limit, 50,000 a year or below.
And just acknowledging, I did see a question pop up from you, Booty. So we'll address that when we get to the Q&A, just so we can get through the main bulk of the presentation. But recognising, and please encourage anyone, if you have any questions that pop up as Katie and I are chatting, pop them in the chat and we'll address them when we get to the Q&A. So we really try and make it as simple as possible for you to nominate, and nominate often, nominate lots of people. So what the key information that you need to provide in general for organisation and individuals is the nominee's consent to be nominated, we absolutely require you to check with the nominee that they are okay to be nominated, and you'll have to be asked to tick a consent box. You have to supply the nominee's contact details just in case they progress through further stages. We might need to follow up specific information with them. They might need to undergo some checks. There are 4 selection criteria that you have to answer, which we'll go through in detail on the next slide. But if you come prepared with responses to those 4 selection criteria, and that's it for the individual nominations. But for organisational categories, we also ask for a letter of support, from an individual, a stakeholder, a letter of support that supports your nomination, and that is mandatory. But you can also provide up to 3 attachments which are optional that do support your case. So it might be things like, if you provided a new innovative volunteer program, it might be a brochure about that, or it might be a volunteer program impact booklet that you've created for your volunteer program that is an optional attachment to support your nomination.
So here's the selection criteria. So the overview, why are you nominating this person or organisation? So that's 50 words, which goes really quickly, but if you actually type over 50, it won't accept your nomination. So all of these word counts, we really encourage you to use them up, because if you just said to us, I'm nominating David, he's fantastic, full stop. Great. David is fantastic, but why? So yeah, just a really good overview of why you're nominating the person. The achievements and outcomes, and that's 150 words. The strengths and qualities, 150 words. And the commitment and effort, 50 words. So it's pretty short. You've only got, like, what's that, 400 words to tell us about someone. So it's got to be short, snappy, to the point. Yeah, dot points are fine if you don't want to write out full sentences, but just they're the 4 things that we gain from you, and they're the same 4 things for every category, just to see who this person is, what they've done, how amazing they are, and their commitment and effort. That's it.
And those 4 selection criteria go along for the organisational categories as well. And again, we recognise they're quite broad-based. Again, this is about making it really easy to apply, and we know that those word limits can be tight, but we hope it causes you a little bit of thinking around how you use those particular word limits. And again, when it comes to organizations, you do have the option to provide up to 3 supporting documents in addition to the selection criteria. Michael, am I noticing a hand up? Or okay, cool. No worries. Again, encourage you to just, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll get to the question shortly. So it's an online nomination process. There's the full address to nominate there. So www.volunteeringvictoria.org.au/awards. And that will take you to our Awards Force website. And after we've sort of gone through the slides, Katie and I will show you, attempt to demonstrate what that looks like so you can be nice and familiar with it. If for some reason the hard copy nomination, if for some reason an online awards application process does not suit you, please get in touch with our team at awards@volunteeringvictoria.org.au, or you can call our reception number, and you can get a hard copy nomination form or PDF, or complete it via phone with a member of our staff. we do really encourage everyone to go through the awards platform. And I can vouch, as someone who's not the most tech savvy, it really is fairly straightforward. But you know, if you do have any of those hurdles, please just contact our team and we'll make sure we get your nomination in. A reminder, you cannot nominate yourself for an individual category. So you have to find someone else to nominate you. And we do some compliance cross-checking. I think there was a question around how you nominate your own organization. And you absolutely can do that, but have to find an alternate contact person within the organization to be the primary nomination contact. And we'll go through those technical details later. So I don't know, Katie, are you happy to
Yeah.
stop sharing my screen? We can share Katie's screen and show you what it looks like through Awards Force.
Yeah.
So we'll just show you that.
Okay, here we are in the volunteering awards part of our website. So if you all Google Volunteering Victoria and go across to events, here it is here, the Volunteering Awards. So on the first page, we've got like a bit of a background about the awards. And you can see here we've got the nomination guidelines where it says nominate here. So if I click on that, it gives you all the stuff that we've talked to you about in today's presentation. I'll just scroll through pretty quickly. They're the dates, very important. The young volunteer through the volunteer leadership, all the different categories. And they spell out, you know, if it's open to non-for-profit, or you've got to have $50,000 or below, or all those sorts of things are there. And then it just goes through what we need from you to nominate someone. And all the terms and conditions, etc. So it's pretty simple, but that's where that is. And then if we want to nominate someone, we go nominate here. So this is the front screen of the volunteering awards portal, which is awards platform. And if you go through, it's really easy. My entries, the entry form, start the entry. So I start here all the way through to the quick survey at the end. So here we can either choose if you're a volunteering organisation or an individual volunteer. So I'm going to pick volunteer. And then here it just gives you the categories that you can put down for a volunteer. And if it was the volunteering organisations, again, just the categories. So we may as well do one of these. Let's go, we'll do a grassroots volunteering. We're just going to put Donald Duck Enterprises. Oh, I can't even spell, that's all right. So the big thing, have I got their consent? And it's yes. They said okay. And I'm agreeing to all the terms that were in that earlier document. So here I just fill in my first name. The phone number, I'll just have to put something down or it will be like a default if I don't. The address. Oh, you can always see in my typing, I always do that. And oh, sorry, my email address. This is my email address. And so on down the rest. Maybe if I say save and next, it'll submit it, but it might come back at the end that I haven't filled in all those details. So here it's just putting down the organisation's name, the ABN, which hopefully you'll all have, the sector, which there's emergency services, local government, parenting and children. So just choose one that's somewhat appropriate. The town, suburb, and then the representative's first name, the representative's last name, the representative's job title or position, and the representative's postnominals, if they have any. That's like a OAM or an AC.
And so to answer the early question that it was in the chat, yes, you can write a nomination for your organisation, but you would also have to get the endorsement of an official representative from your organisation. And if you are in a really high leadership position, you might be the general manager and sole staff. That might be your board chair or vice versa. So, if you're unsure of who's an appropriate representative, feel free to drop a line to Volunteering Victoria staff and we can help you, sort of sort through who those contacts might be.
Yeah. Now, here's where we start to fill in the word limits. So 50, 150, just to tell us all about your nominee or organisation. And then I think they're all pretty clear, but if there's any questions, do let us know. And at the very end, this is where you drag and drop your files, so letters, or it could be something from the newspaper or any other bits and pieces that you want to add into your nomination. Could be the letter from the Chief Financial Officer just that they're under 50,000, which is for this one. And then this one, it's just a quick survey for us, just to look at the ease of nominating, and hopefully you all found it pretty easy. So yeah, just if there's anything that you think you can improve upon, please let us know.
Wonderful. I might get you to stop sharing your screen now, Katie, and
Yeah.
I'll take back over and reshare my slides. But thank you. So, as we say, we do think it is a pretty self-explanatory system. But again, the awards at email address is really there for you to contact should you have any trouble at any time. So just to talk quickly about what the judging process is and where to once you submit your nominations, as Katie mentioned, that deadline is the 4th of July at 4 p.m. On Friday. And then after all the nominations are submitted, we go into our judging processes. And we actually have a 3-stage judging process. So the first is really around a compliance check. It's making sure organisations have provided us the basic information required and that they meet the nomination guidelines. So things like we will double check that we don't have a 30-year-old nominating for the Young Volunteer of the Year award. We'll double check that we have verification of the 50 grand limit for the grassroots volunteering. We'll make sure that individuals haven't nominated themselves. So that's really around, do all of the nominations meet our basic compliance requirements? From there, there's a moderation judging round where each application, each nomination will be reviewed excuse me,
Bless you.
3 times, and averaging out those review scores. The team at volunteering, sorry, Victoria and the department will come up with a list of proposed finalists for a VIP judging panel to review and assess. And that final judging happens with a dedicated panel. But any nominations that end up shortlisted or, proposed to go into the finalists for individuals, they'll be asked to undertake a police check. So it's worth just knowing that up front for your information. If your application is to progress to that final judging stage, that check will have to occur, and the Volunteering Victoria team will be in touch about helping you to complete that.
And there's no cost.
Yes.
The whole thing is free.
We support that, absolutely. So in this final section, we wanted just to pull together a few nomination tips to strengthen your nomination, recognizing how short some of those word limits are. So thought as much guidance as we can provide. It's possible. As I said, read the questions and answers. So make sure you review the nomination that you've put through. Sometimes when you're writing, and I know I can be guilty of this, I think I have put all the information in there, but actually I've put a lot of assumptions about what I know about the candidate or the issue that other people don't. So read it, review it. Sometimes I find it helps to print something aloud and read it aloud to make sure I'm not assuming any of the content is in there that isn't. As we said, make sure you use the full word count to tell us about your nominee. We don't only know what you tell us. So you may, think, gosh, my nominee is fantastic. Everybody in community knows them, but our moderators are coming from an absolutely blank slate. We can only use those 50 words or 150 words.
Yeah.
Really consider what makes your nominee special, and really hone in. As I think Katie mentioned, we do have some nominations. Like quite often, individuals who are volunteering might have volunteered for a number of different organizations, and that's okay. You can absolutely mention that, but definitely hone in on what it is that makes that person really, really special. And your perspective might be from a particular volunteer role that they undertake in your organization. Be clear and concise and use specific examples. So think about, timeframes people have achieved things in, actual things they do. That specificity can be really, really important in differentiating, applications that are good from applications that are great. And then again, think about what criteria best fits them. As we've mentioned, the Volunteer Commitment Award historically has received the most nominations. So when you're thinking of, sort of betting odds, you're sort of least likely to win by throwing your hat into solely that ring. So you might still want to put a nomination for that individual forward into the volunteer commitment category, but you might similarly also want to put a nomination in for them for the Volunteer Impact Award. But do make sure you tailor those nominations. It is going to be, it is going to make a difference if you tweak that nomination, to tailor it according to what we're looking for the volunteer impact versus the volunteer commitment. Anything I missed, Katie? I'm sorry.
No, I think, it's really clear. Just rereading those question and answers, thinking about how that volunteer is really special, what makes them so different to any other volunteers that you might have, popping that down in the 4 questions, getting maybe someone else to read it who doesn't know that volunteer that well and go, oh, wow, they're fantastic. And then sign it off, send it in.
as we've said, we have to be in it to win it. Now, we do have a lovely little clip to finish on from Cherie, our winner here, and then we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Hopefully you guys can hear the sound. Let me know.
I would like to thank all those
hear?
involved with my nomination for recognition in the Victorian State Awards, and Volunteering Victoria for selecting me as Volunteer of the Year. It's a huge honour to receive this award, and I'm proud to accept it, not just for myself, but in recognition of the invaluable efforts and support Red Cross has made over the years, largely in part because of the often unsung commitment and extraordinary contributions made by its volunteers. I began volunteering with the Red Cross in 1957. I'm not ashamed to say that I was drawn in by the rather sumptuous cakes and delicacies, which in post-war Australia were rare due to rationing. But it was the selfless work done by the Red Cross volunteers that kept me involved. Working as a volunteer with the Australian Red Cross brought me in contact with a large group of volunteers involved with many different organisations, spread over every state and territory within Australia, both in peacetime and during periods of crisis. These unsung heroes inspired me. They helped me to realise that there were things much more important than money, status, or even self. To be able to be part of a group that could put self aside and recognise a larger need was extremely humbling, but at the same time, extremely gratifying. It gave me a purpose to my existence. Volunteering organisations cannot exist without their volunteers. Equally, volunteers cannot achieve the amazing things that they do without the volunteering organisations. In accepting this award, I do so on behalf of all volunteers and all volunteering organisations. The cash prize that accompanies this award will, needless to say, be given to Red Cross Australia to help it continue its humanitarian work. I could only wish it was more and that every volunteering organisation could share it. Thank you again, Volunteering Victoria, for the recognition you have given to all Victorian volunteers and for selecting me to receive this award.
Yay!
So we hope that just brings it to life a little in terms of the impact, that personal impact that it can have. And, you know, Katie and I were involved in chatting to Cherie specifically to let her know that she'd won. And again, individuals can often be so surprised that they are finalists, they are winners of the award, and it can be really, really touching the impact that that has on them personally. So, you know, I really just encourage you to give it a go. We try and aim so the nomination process is as short and as painless as possible to allow for that broad recognition. Now, any questions? I've seen in the chat, hopefully, Booty, that question around organisational nominations is clear. I've seen Sharon, can you clarify with the organisations who the letter of support should be from? Look, it could be anyone. So I know that can be a bit daunting, but thinking about someone who will give a big impact, it could be from a volunteer who's involved in your program, it could be from a stakeholder, it could be from, I don't know, local government, if you work specifically with a local government area and have, you know, a profound impact. You know, it's really about thinking about what the award is and who might be most appropriate. You're always welcome to email the awards at email address if you have any questions about whether a particular individual would be appropriate. And I can see the question around, can you renominate the volunteers who are unsuccessful in the last years? Absolutely. I don't see why not. I do want to just go back to the nomination guidelines for a minute and check around whether there's a boundary on the time frame. I think the only consideration you might have there is when you have a nominee who's turning 25 in the year, and when you're talking about whether they're eligible for that category or not. But I'll take that on notice for a minute just to triple check around timeframes, but I can't see any reason why not, particularly in the context of, say, that volunteer commitment award. You know, those achievements still absolutely stand.
And probably on that, just to think about what additional have they done in the last year and highlighting that particular aspect.
Or perhaps adding more detail, reviewing the application that you sent in previously and thinking, what, you know, how can I make this more specific? How can I bring this nomination to life?
Yeah.
So again, for those, for the question there, the recording will be put up on Volunteering Victoria's YouTube, you know, to assist us with getting the message out to a number of people. So there'll probably be a link on that web page. So you may not receive an email link directly to the recording, but go back to that awards web page on our website and you'll be able to check. Give us a couple of days to get that up, and absolutely you can submit multiple entries. You can submit one person across a number of categories, but similarly you can submit 5 of your volunteers for the same category. We encourage you to submit multiple nominations. You have to be in it to win it. Any other questions at this stage?
We hope by looking at some of the photos of past winners and like the winners that we profiled on the 8 different categories of awards, just helped you see that there's no criteria that we're looking for. Everybody is really special, even to just be nominated. People who are nominated still get a letter from or an email from Volunteering Victoria just saying, wow, you've been nominated. That's fantastic. And then obviously as finalists start to appear and winners, and that's the pointy end. Yep.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, we'll let you get on with the rest of your day. But thank you all for coming along, and we really encourage you to get in there and nominate your organisations, your volunteers. We really encourage you. Thank you so much.